We're here this evening to toast conservation. So rather than long speeches, we're going to have toasts. And this gray hair means that I'm here to toast those that brought us here and kept us in the game. And at the top of the list would be the person to whom we dedicated that publication that Christina waved, Mr. Glenn Davis. Marshall McLuhan said, when it comes to Spaceship Earth, we're all crew. And we've had a remarkable crew, and Glenn was kind of our vice captain through those years that we protected those 100 million hectares. He was one of us. Yes, he wrote the checks and helped underwrite what he did, but he also participated in the meetings. He contributed chapters to our books. He clothed us in what we affectionately called Glenwear, based on shopping sprees at Mountain Equipment Co-op. And he got us out there on fabulous trips to enjoy what we were working so hard to protect. So I want to, in a way, sort of dedicate the evening to Glenn, and I want to acknowledge with us here this evening his wife, Mary Alice Davis. There are many other philanthropists in the audience, and one thing I've learned is you don't start naming philanthropists because people get left out. But you know who you are, and I also know it's standard fare to say, without you, we couldn't have done it. But the truth is, without you, we couldn't have done it. So I want to reiterate Jerry's comments. Thank you so much. So part of my toast to those who brought us here and kept us in the game is to the philanthropists. I'd like to acknowledge the decision makers, the politicians in many cases who broke ranks to make decisions in our favor and in favor of the planet. Mr. Turner's already been acknowledged. Mr. Turner and I traveled across the country from Ottawa to Yukon. He headlined press conferences. He attended these in Ottawa and shook loose the money for the protected area strategy. We stood with the Gwich'in in Yukon to protect the caribou of the North Slope of Alaska. So he has been a hands-on Prime Minister on this file and has a deep and abiding concern for the geography of this country. And I don't know if, just to go to the other part of the political spectrum, I don't know if he's here yet this evening, but John Snoblin, if he's not, will be joining us, and he was Minister of the Crown for Ontario when we established 379 new protected areas with one stroke of the pen through the Endangered Spaces campaign. And a number of these folks from Tembec and Domtar were on the stage on that day. And I'm very proud of the fact, looking back, that we positioned that campaign in such a way that it was equally attractive to what I call the two Mikes, Mike Harcourt and Mike Harris. And if you don't think that takes a little skill, it does. But we did it, and those were the two premiers that made the most progress on that endangered spaces agenda. So I want to acknowledge the decision makers. I'd like to acknowledge our colleagues, the other non-government organizations with whom we worked, and the people we hired and worked with in the field. And with us this evening, for example, representing that group is Bill Carpenter, who's come from the Northwest Territories. He originally lived for years in the Northwest Territories, in Alberta right now, but Bill was our conservation director for the Northwest Territories. Was really responsible more than anyone else for having an NWT protected area strategy, and has the distinction of having driven a dog sled team and dumped a former prime minister out on the ice on the lake. So acknowledgement of our colleagues and partners in this. And finally, I want to acknowledge corporate leadership, and represented amongst others by Jim Lopez and John Williams from Tembec and Domtar respectively here this evening. These are folks who in many cases broke ranks with their peers, without whom we couldn't have established those protected areas. We certainly hadn't made the progress that we did under FSC. And I want to acknowledge the presence of FSC-Canada here as well, another organization that was at the center of all of this. So those are if you think about it, you've got philanthropists, really headlined and represented by Glenn and others of you. You know who you are here this evening. The decision makers, the political people, the corporate people who made decisions in favor of nature, our colleagues, our non-government colleagues, and the corporate leadership. And I'm very proud to work for an organization that brings those kinds of unlikely bedfellows together, knits them together, and saves 100 million hectares. So my toast is, here's a toast to the people who've brought us here and kept us in the game.